Oh, you're the first guy. The real big Lenny. Yeah, I don't think so. How you doing there, Est Patrum? Yeah, nice. Okay, 4 people so far. Nice. I just finished doing a 20-minute vlog, day in the life type video. So I just finished editing that, and I can upload it anytime now. But I just figured it's a nice night out, and I'm gonna work out in the garage anyway, pretty quick here. So I thought I'd just jump on here and just do some live Q&A type stuff with you guys. So yeah, I had some people request it, so hey, here I am. Backed by popular demand, Jason the Gallantian is here at your beck and call here to answer your questions today. So let's see what's going on here. I look good in this lighting, see? Anything that blows out the face, I look much better. Daniel Stanley, how important is it getting a pump for muscle gains in the arms? Watch my video. Should you chase the pump, or should you chase like failure of the pump, or what is it? You guys got to tell me. There's a one video I did on chase the burn, or hit failure, or whatever. Like there's a lot of different muscles, or a lot of different videos I've done on muscle failure and the pump, and both are necessary. So high reps and low reps. So getting a pump is necessary because again, I've talked about this in multiple different layers, but one of the layers is that when you do different weights and different rep ranges, your form changes, sometimes your proprioception or your mind-muscle connection changes. All of these things are major factors in what will contribute to you gaining an overall amount of muscle mass, right? So leaving no stone unturned is really important. So if you're basically doing heavy weight all the time, sometimes you're using certain muscles that you're strong in order to lift that weight, or sometimes there's a certain amount of momentum that is necessary in order to lift the weight. Like a lot of guys, like they'll bitch at somebody because they're not doing arm curls right. Meanwhile, the guy's doing his body weight with arm curls, so his body weight's getting moved around. And they're like, oh, you're just swinging the weight. Well, no, it's actually the weight that's swinging the guy around. It's not. It's the other way around, right? So when you're changing the rep ranges up, you're also going to be changing the activation up, and you're going to be changing what's going on. So also getting a pump is also necessary for getting that blood into the area. So what do people call it now? They call it what that lack of blood flow type technique or whatever to help gain more muscle in a certain area, right? It's kind of the same sort of idea where you pump the blood into the area and you basically get more of a pump, but you're not necessarily pushing the strength. So you're pushing the endurance fibers and the lactic acid, and you're getting a different type of stimulus that causes muscle growth. So it's important to do both. That's why I always say both, because I found that if I just do one, I don't get the same results as if I do two. There's a synergy, and I'm going to make a video on synergy pretty soon. Blood flow, there you go. Well, blood flow, dude. Yeah, Anthony. See, Anthony's my shitty cameraman, right? So he thinks he's a smartass, like he can talk back to me, because he wants to talk to me while I'm playing Battlefield 1 or Fortnite or something like that. And I just don't have time to talk to teenagers, Anthony. Hey, they're too mature for me, so I have to basically, play video games by myself. Okay, so Candy Cane's asking about exercises to combat lower back pain. I did a few videos on lower back pain, on how to train legs and stuff with lower back pain. But one of the major things you want to work with is activating the hamstrings and the extension of the lower back at the same time. Now, my brother has something called a reverse hyper, which is really good for that, where you basically are doing hyper extensions, but it's a reverse hyper. You're lifting the legs, and then you can put weight on there too, like light weight and stuff. That's an unbelievable exercise for activating the lower back to maintain that flatness or that slight arch at the same time as getting those hamstrings to go. Now, the other thing is that when you round the lower back under a safe environment and then you extend it, you can get a little bit of a disc healing happening. So my brother's explained this to me a little bit, but there's some circulation that happens within the disc that can actually heal disc injuries or help alleviate some of the symptoms. So this is something that you could look into. But a reverse hyper is good. Another thing is you could do reverse hypers, like one-legged lifts on a Swiss ball by laying on your stomach and then just lifting one leg at a time. I find that helps a lot. So that's one way that I rehabbed my lower back injury when I was like 18, 19 years old, and I deadlifted wrong and hurt my back and everything. I started to do one leg at a time lifts. And if you don't have a Swiss ball, just lay on the ground and lift one leg at a time. And then basically you're going to be activating the hamstrings and the butt and the glute and the lower back, but it's going to be safe and it's nice and light. But the main purpose is to get that mind muscle connection with the lower back muscles, and at the same time pump the blood in there to increase healing. So that's something you can do, and I think it's really good. Now the other thing is strengthening the abs. A lot of guys, when they're training abs, they're actually training the psoas muscles because they're lifting their legs, it just is straight. They're not focusing on rounding the back. They're not focusing on turning their bum under and rounding, right? They're not doing the inchworm. And the inchworm is really what the abs do. You just round the back, right? You just round the back, that's abs. But a lot of guys, what they do is they lift their legs up and they start activating the psoas. And sometimes if the psoas is too strong or too tight in comparison to the abs, that can pull your spine into a position where you might get some sort of pain and injuries. So you want to strengthen up the abs. So laying on the ground, say you have your knees bent and your knees are up, and then just push the bum under. I can't show you right now because of course I'm not filming myself in the right position here, and moving my tripod around is really iffy because this thing just collapses on me. But the fact is, if you just round the bum under, you'll actually activate some of the abs, and strengthening the abs does help a bit as well in protecting the lower back from back pain. But keeping your back in a rounded position when you're squatting or deadlifting, that's going to kill your back every day of the week. And my cat is going in and out of the garage, and that's why the door light is activating. So if you're wondering, I don't have a disco ball in here. See, there he goes in the background. He's like, yeah, I've had enough of this shitty chat. I'm done with this. Where's the vlog, right? Yeah, he's going to start meowing pretty soon too because he wants to go downstairs to check out to see if there's any dead bodies down there. And I haven't actually interacted with any trolls lately. So because I haven't interacted with any trolls, there's probably no bodies down there in the basement. There's probably none. Hey, how you doing there, Prowler? Yeah, so I'm going to scroll through here and say hi to you guys. Sorry about that. I just started talking here. Okay, David Atkins, what do I think of a compound-only routine? I think that's okay, but if you're doing bodybuilding, sometimes it's good to isolate certain areas because you'll notice that certain compounds, if you do a compound, you'll hit certain muscle groups that'll hit failure, but other ones will never hit failure because the other ones die way first, right? So, so if you say you're doing a compound exercise like squats, right, and you notice your ass hits failure long before your quads do all the time. Some guys, they find if they do a different compound or an isolation technique, I mean, of course, I never do leg extensions, so this is a bad example, but some guys find if they do leg extensions first, then they squat, they find that they get more quad activation rather than their butt hitting failure first, right? So this is a way that you could pre-exhaust and hit those areas that are not hitting failure. And you want to do this if you want to get results. That's the bottom line. If you want to get results, you want the muscle to hit failure that you want results in. So that's how it works. So compound only routine can be good if you're trying to build strength for a period of time. But as a bodybuilder, if that's your goal as a bodybuilder, then you will need to at some point address the weak links or the things that are not hitting failure or not being challenged during those compound lifts. Daniel Stanley, drinking rye eggs, what do I think about that? I've drank them before, I like them, but I mean, you could get salmonella poisoning from them, but I think honestly, most likely you won't. I think whatever it takes to get the protein down is not a bad thing. Okay, forehand setting, so shoulder press standard for big cap shoulders like I do. Now, the funny thing is you guys don't know is that my shoulders are actually better in some ways than they were in my bodybuilding days when I was actually competing. And one of the reasons why is because I dislocated this one and then tore the rotator cuff on this one. And of course, all hockey injuries like I talk about, people always bitch at me because I talk about this stuff, but I need to explain why my body's responded a certain way. But sometimes that instability has actually caused my shoulders to actually have to stabilize more, which is why my shoulders have become a little bit more dominant. But the fact is that I did a video on this, the secret to building delts. Follow the tips in that video because that is what I did in order to build great delts. It's a lot of rotator cuff work and rear delt work. A lot of people focus purely on the front delts, but you get a lot of front delt work during your chest work. So front delt work, as much as it's good to do shoulder presses, it's good to do these dumbbell shoulder presses or standing shoulder presses, don't make that the standard of your shoulder work because those areas are already worked, right? So you want to address the weak links, and most likely with most people, the weak link is the rotator cuff muscle and the rear delts. So if you do that, you will get more of a cap delt and you'll get a better deltoid look. Macedonia. Well, hey, Octomorph, how you doing? Okay, let's see here. Okay. Sorry, guys, if I'm missing your comments here because, hey, Blair, I was thinking about you when I jumped on here, Blair. Blair sent me some napkins because apparently he thinks that I'm a slob. And no apron, thank God, because I'm not going to wear it, Blair. I won't wear it. But yeah, he sent me a present, so thanks for that. And yeah, I jumped on here thinking, hey, maybe I'll get you guys in Nova Scotia on the eastern side of the country. Maybe you guys will hit me up here. John Connor. I don't know who he's talking to. He's saying, I need to start shrugging. No, I don't need to start shrugging. I'm a drug-free bodybuilder. I'm not an idiot. So I already do shrug. The thing is, my traps didn't actually respond great to shrugs, although I got a little bit of results from that. But I find that my traps actually were one of my dominant body parts for natural bodybuilders. But I did most of my trap development more from bent over rows and more from, you know, rotator cuff type stuff and bent over lateral rows where I'm externally rotating. I got a lot of trap work from that. Yeah. And shrugs, I don't really like shrugs too much. Although I did a few videos of me shrugging heavy and stuff, I don't really like them too much. Okay. Okay, Bud Brothers, is there any way to change my fat distribution? Maybe getting shredded fat and repeat, or will my fat always accumulate on your sides? The thing is, there are different fat receptors in the body. That's a fact. And I did notice that by doing a low carb diet and moderate fat, as opposed to doing low fat and moderate carb, that will cause different places in the body to burn fat slightly. Like I noticed when I was dieting down for a bodybuilding show and I was doing lower fat and moderate carbs, my legs were getting leaner than my upper body. But then when I was doing another diet where I was doing lower carb but higher fat, my upper body was getting leaner than my legs. So this way of messing around with the diet does affect a little bit. And I don't have any research to back this up or anything, but I did see this. And I know that I've read some research in regards to accessing, I think, what they call it, beta 1 and beta 2 receptors or something like that in different fat stores. So there is different fat receptors. And so there is a way of doing that, but ultimately just lose body fat and you'll see. I mean, just find a way that you lose body fat. That's the most important thing. Spot reduction, I mean, you'll drive yourself nuts if you're just saying, oh, I just want to have this little piece of fat gone here. It's more important just to get the diet right, generally speaking, in order for you to lose body fat. And of course, your exercise, right? Okay, John Connor, I don't know what you're doing, buddy. Okay, John Connor, you're a prick. See you later. Send me an email if you want to be back on the channel there, John. If you want to be a nice person. Yeah, okay, so let me just go up here. Always one troll. There's always one troll. I don't have the troll cam here, but there's always one troll. Okay, let me just rotate up here. See who else is talking. I missed a lot of you guys in the beginning, so sorry about that, guys. I was talking too much. Alberto Pezos says, asking me, do I take creatine? How often do you cycle it off, and how does it affect your strength? Okay, so I don't take creatine. The reason why is because I find I retain a lot of water with creatine. It doesn't mean that creatine's bad. I've read a lot of positive research on creatine. My own experience is not negative with creatine. I notice that my strength goes up, especially when it comes down to upper body training. And there is some research and experience to support that when you have more water in the muscle, intramuscular or intracellular, right, which is what creatine is supposed to help with, apparently, it's supposed to help with increasing the permeability of the cell, which means more nutrients go in and out. So I don't take creatine because mainly I'm trying to find out what diet I'm taking, if I'm becoming fat or if I'm getting leaner. And when I'm basically doing, sorry about that, somebody's loud. When I'm doing a lower fat diet, I want to know whether I'm retaining a lot of water, if I'm eating the wrong carbs or not, and you know, if I'm getting a little bit fatter, I can adjust my diet. But creatine makes me water over, so it's really hard for me to tell where I'm at. And also I urinate all the time. I have to pee all the time when I take creatine, so I don't find that I like to take it now, but it doesn't mean it's a bad supplement. And I might, you know, do it once in a while just to test and see where I'm at now, because sometimes, like I said, and I always say this in the videos, always deal with the now here, right here, because your body responds sometimes differently now than it did a year ago or 10 years ago. So your body is always going through these different changes. So it's important to sometimes be open, even though you know something to be true. Sometimes you have to re-know it or retry that theory and see if it still applies. But so creatine is good. It helps mostly, though, I would say it helps mostly with your upper body strength. It doesn't help with lower body strength much. Christopher Lenz, Rich Piana, it never invented feeder workouts or anything, just so you know. So I don't know why anybody calls it Rich Piana feeder workouts. It's only his social media. I mean, I've been doing feeder workouts my whole life. That's what the basis of high frequency training is that I do higher reps and I train more often, like whole body workouts and stuff. So I'm not always doing super heavy weight, but I'm doing a workout that basically gives me the motivation and the blood flow in order to do another workout, right? So it's just nothing more than another way of explaining, if I understand correctly, that you can do workouts with less intensity and a little bit less volume, but constantly reminding the body that it needs to grow or needs to adapt, right? Okay, so I have my garage, sorry guys about the sound, I have my garage door open, so some people are driving by. It's a nice summer night here. Okay, so Daniel Stanley's asking me a good question here. He says, can a poor diet be outworked? For instance, guys in military or jail who become ripped with less than optimal nutrition. Daniel, most of the time those guys are already they already have a medium to fast metabolism, right? But in most cases, a shitty diet cannot be outworked. And it depends what you mean, right? If you're saying because most people say shitty nutrition, right? Can it be outworked? Well, what's your goal, right? Is your goal to be ripped from the nutrition program or to be strong and big from the nutrition program? You know, what is it, right? So if your goal is to be ripped, you can get leaner and smaller, but if you look at long distance runners, just watch marathoners, not all of them are ripped. They might be small, but they're not necessarily ripped. So you won't necessarily get the physique you want just by working your ass off. Because the fact is, what type of work you're doing will also affect the body. And some people think that excessive cardio is the best way to get ripped. It's not the best way to get ripped. It's the best way to get small, and it's the best way to lose body weight, period. Maybe, but it won't be the right composition for bodybuilding. It's not necessarily going to be that. That's going to be more based on your genetics. So when I was 18 years old, I had the fastest metabolism. People would always be pissed off at me because they're like, "Oh yeah, Jason, you already have abs. You always have abs. What's wrong with you? You know, that's I'm so jealous." You know, that kind of shit that goes on between young men, right? But the fact is that when I did a lot of karate, I lost like 10 pounds, 11 pounds within about a month and a half, and I was leaner. But I wouldn't say that my physique improved. It actually just got smaller, and I was much weaker in the gym and stuff like that. So bodybuilding is more about building muscle and then skimming that body fat off. So you're building the body. You're not just dieting it off or anorexing it off or basically running it off. If you just run, your body is going to become catabolic. Now, guys that have genetics that are very endomorphic, so they have a tendency to keep body fat on, keep muscle mass on and stuff, they won't lose muscle as aggressively, at least what I've observed. I mean, there's always exceptions to every rule, so I can't really just make blanket statements here, but the fact is that most of those guys seem to hold on to their muscle a lot easier than say somebody else, and they may be able to respond better to a higher type cardio workout. Anyway, check out my video, ectomorphs versus endomorphs and all that kind of stuff, how to train that way, right? Okay, cool. Okay, ultimate wear. I was sent from a capsule from a place far from here. Okay, he's telling us stories. Okay, that's not a question. Okay. Okay, how much did I spend on my gym equipment? You can watch my video on my home gym equipment that I like, my home gym setup. I actually did a video on it. But I remember my squat rack was around $400, $500. It wasn't too expensive. That's Canadian, so US would be much less, right? And the weights are actually the most expensive thing. So you could spend about $200 on a bar. You want to get a good, decent bar. It's around $200. But your weights are going to be expensive no matter what because it's just so heavy to ship them, right? So you can look on Craigslist and stuff, and sometimes you can get cheaper weights that'll fit that type of bar and all that. It might take you a little while to collect it. But yeah, usually those weights are about $2 a pound and stuff, so it gets pretty expensive. But the bike is used. I got a recumbent bike which was used. That was only about $450, and I got that because in the wintertime it's pretty hard to do cardio here and stuff. The summertime you can ride a bike and whatever, but you can't really do too much in the winter here. And then the bench was only about $150 or something like that. It wasn't too expensive either. So yeah, you can collect stuff, but you can get a lot done just with a set of dumbbells or just a squat rack and a bar and some weights. I mean, I just recommend starting small. Don't worry about getting the whole perfect setup going. And then from there, you could just add to it as you feel like your finances allow or as stuff comes available through garage sales or things that you see, right? Farhan Sadiq, why do I deadlift so rarely? I actually I Romanian deadlift about once a week. So that's quite a bit, actually. But I do Romanian deadlifts. I don't do powerlifting deadlifts. I explain that why in many videos. Digweed, I've got two new songs that I've been using in my videos. I can't remember the name of them now. It's so funny because I always make up new names. One's called Destiny, and the other one, what's the other one called? You probably know what it is more than I do. But I don't have enough songs to put on a new album, so I have to produce another song pretty soon here. I gotta keep on producing some more songs, and yeah, so I'm sure in the next month or two I'll have a new video a new album. Because I'm kind of getting sick of my songs. So when I get kind of sick of a song, then I basically have to do something new and master it and stuff. It just takes so long. Every time I do a song, it takes me at least 2 or 3 days after I master it and listen to it over and over again and figure out what I want to play and what I want to do. And that's why sometimes I get caught up because I have to choose. It's like, do I want to do a video today or do I want to, delay uploading a video and then do a song? So I sometimes have to choose between the two because guys like Anthony, Physique on here, who's my cameraman, doesn't want to learn how to edit, doesn't want to get a computer, doesn't want to do anything to learn how to help me out and put more content out there. Right, Anthony? So, like he doesn't have anything better to do, right? Oh, thanks, Paz. Okay, our lateral raise is bad for shoulders. So Paz just donated something here, $10. So thanks a lot for that. What's the best mid-build exercise? I find lateral raises are great, but because my shoulders and stuff are built weird, like it irks me every time I watch myself lateral raise because I lateral raise, but this shoulder goes up like this, and that shoulder goes straight because this one's the one I dislocated, right? But I still feel fine when I do it. I just look like an idiot when I do it because of the labral tear. But the fact is I found lateral raises are great. I don't go up like this. And again, you're gonna have to base your lateral raise on your own genetic limitations because some people, my arms are rotated in a bit because that's what's comfortable and I feel all of it in the delt. I don't feel any pressure at all on the joint when I do it that way. But if I rotate out like this, like some people do, I feel a lot of pressure on the delt and it basically hurts my shoulders. It doesn't actually help. So you have to go with your own genetics on this. So there's some people out there in the bigger YouTube channels that are saying, oh yeah, don't do it this way, don't, because it'll cause problems. Well, the person doesn't know what they're talking about because they're just basing it on their own genetic limitations, but not on how somebody else might be built. But yeah, lateral raises are great for side delts. But I find that the rear delt and the rotator cuff is totally underestimated. So when you do rotator cuff exercise, like external rotation, let's say you lay on your side with light weight, there's a muscle that wraps around the delt underneath the main delt, and that will push it out and make it look more like a softball. And that's kind of the look you're going for when it comes down to bodybuilding, right? So basically, don't be afraid to do those external rotation exercises. They really work well. Do I think lateral raises are necessary? I think so. It's definitely a different angle. Because if you're just doing front delts, it depends what you're doing. I mean, if you're saying are lateral raises necessary in comparison to just doing shoulder presses, if that's your question, because I added that little bit on there, I would say yes, they are, because you are working different muscles doing this. It does assess or access different fibers doing that as opposed to just doing shoulder press. Okay, so any tips on strengthening the shoulders and the rotator cuff to prevent injury and increasing shoulder flexibility? Well, the front delt stretch, right? So like you say, you put, here's what I do. Like say I put an arm on a bench or something like that, and then just like this, that's a front delt stretch. So I stretch the delts in between sets, or I stretch them before I do shoulder presses. After I've got some blood in there, then I'll do a little bit of a stretch in there. That's one thing. The other thing that most people really underestimate, and it's something I talked about in how to increase your bench press in 20 minutes, is that the muscles in between the shoulder blades, if they're knotted up, the shoulder blades cannot move properly, and then you'll get something like delt pain. I've got it lots of times. And as soon as I've accessed that muscle knot or trigger point, or say the back is out, or say there's something going on with the rhomboids or the traps, and they're tight or something, there's spasms for some reason, they'll prevent the proper movement of the shoulder blades, and that will cause you to have some sort of impingement or problem with the shoulder. So it's not always a shoulder injury that's causing the shoulder pain. A lot of times it's just that the back isn't allowing the shoulder blades to move properly. So that's something to access. The other thing is to get regular massage therapy on the different muscles, such as the subscap that's in here, right? That pulls the arm down like this, the infraspinatus, and any of the rotator cuff muscles, making sure there's no spasms or muscle knots in there that will increase blood flow and also help your strength of your shoulders and prevent injury. Because when the rotator cuff is working properly, then it's going to help stabilize the shoulder and protect it properly. But if it's jammed kind of funny and it's grinding, that's going to cause a chronic inflammation, right? So you want to make sure that the muscles are functioning properly because they are the first line of defense for the joint. So a A lot of people underestimate that. They just randomly just work out and think that everything's fine, but that's kind of like driving your car but never putting any oil in it, and one day it needs an oil change. So you do need to do some maintenance. And stretching is one type of maintenance, but I found massage is more effective than stretching even, because stretching, sometimes when you have a spasm muscle, I find that stretching doesn't necessarily unspasm it. Sometimes the body just fights against it and it doesn't necessarily release. So that's why massage is a very powerful technique, right? Oh, raindrops. I don't. Raindrops. Oh, that's a different song. Digweed. That's one I did a long time ago. My God, I can't even remember where I put that song. I have to find it actually. Alec Lancaster, should you take his sets? Okay, he's asking if he should take his sets to failure on a cut. I'd say yeah, take them to failure, but not failure like. Okay, there's different types of failure. There's a failure of getting that deep burn failure, and then there's the failure where you're straining your ass off for 4 reps type failure. That's not the failure that I'd be going to on a cut, because on a cut you definitely don't want to be straining too heavy and trying to max out on your PRs and stuff like that. I wouldn't be doing that, but there's nothing wrong with going to failure on your high rep sets or medium rep sets, right? I would just make sure that your technique is good. It's the same principle always applies. Don't be straining and then all over the place to get that last rep up. You know, failure means, like one guy asked me, what does failure actually mean? I said, well, it's the last rep that you could do and still rack the weight. I mean, it's not like push and then do 7 negatives or whatever. I would not recommend doing that. Yeah. Okay, as to param, I would say stiff-legged deadlifts are actually bad for erectors. All right, stiff-legged deadlifts. If you're rounding your back to go down, I see this mistake all the time. Guys are locking their knees out, doing stiff legs, and then they're rounding their back to come down. This is a back disaster or a hamstring terror. Do not do that. That is a horrible exercise, and I've seen guys tear their hamstrings doing it. It's just a matter of time, or herniate a disc because they're rounding that lower back. You never round the lower back when you have weight in your hand. You just don't do it. So yes, rack deadlifts would be better for erectors, or reverse hypers like I talked about in the beginning. You know, or leg lifts on a ball with a weight around your ankle or something like that, one leg at a time when you're laying on your stomach on a ball, and you just lift one leg at a time and then the other leg, you know, with weights on your legs, or just do it without weight. And you'll notice that your erectors behind, as far as the lower back, get hit pretty hard, right? But Romanian deadlifts are awesome for that too. That's what I do. Hey Cameron, how you doing, buddy? DZ from Detroit. What up? You're driving right now. Oh crap. Hopefully, yeah, don't be texting me and driving, but I'm glad you're here. So yeah, just keep listening if you can. Okay, so S. Param is saying, what do I do to hype up before lifts and set a new PR? Coffee, energy drinks, metal song, what gives me hype? Feed it with something special. I have my non-fat mochas and stuff like that, but I don't do PRs anymore. Like I don't have to get myself hyped. I don't have to get myself hyped like, you know, going all crazy and bloody nose and all this and vomiting in my mouth before I do something. I don't have any problem with that. I just make sure I concentrate, especially when it comes down to deadlifts or squats and stuff, because there's so many things that can go wrong. But I can manifest the intensity. The intensity isn't actually a problem. I don't have any problem manifesting the intensity. I just have to make sure that my body wants to catch up with the intensity that my mind can muster. My mind can actually outdo my body. Like I can outdo my body 10 times more than my intensity. So yeah, a lot of times I have to dial my intensity back. That's what I have to do. Yeah, Russ Comels, if you do, you know, stiff-legged deads for hamstrings, if you're rounding the lower back, I still would not recommend it. That is the one thing I would say never do with weight. That is something that will cause some problems. So yeah, make sure you have your lower back in the proper position. Right? Yeah, who would win the fight, me versus Dave Palumbo? Who cares? Okay. Yeah, that's exactly it, Esperon. You have to maintain that arch in the lower back. If you can't do that, you're going to be in a real problem, right? But if you can do that, that's fine. But I still recommend a slight bend in the knee. If your knee is locked, there'll be nowhere for the pressure to go when the hamstring is just off. And that's how a hamstring gets torn. So just make sure you keep a slight bend in the knee, because you want to feel the pressure in the muscle belly, but not in the tendon insertion. And if you start feeling the pressure in the tendon insertion, you could run into trouble. Okay, it's getting a little bit dark out. I'm gonna have to turn my garage light on here pretty quick. Writing the shit down, yeah. Okay. Um, what's my favorite exercise on your opinion to build a big back? Alberto, watch my playlist on favorite exercises. If you just go down here below, okay, wherever it is, down there, I think it's there. There's playlists, and I have playlists on my favorite exercises, and I actually talk about my favorite exercise, the back exercise, which is the bent over dumbbell row. But really take a look at it. It's one of my greatest ones. I love it. Okay. All right. Turn the light on here. You guys are losing me, so yeah. Cameron D, what do I think about rack pulls below or above the knee? I've never done them. To tell you the truth, I barely ever have done them. I just never found them necessary, and I find the whole resting bullshit on the bar is just, it's a lot of ego crap involved in that. I'm not trying to put you down or anything, but I found that the constant tension and keeping the tension on the muscle and stuff was better. Now, I know it's a powerlifting technique to just rest something on a rack and then give her again, but that's more of a nervous system type of thing where you're trying to refine the nervous system's activation of something to start and stop, start and stop, start and stop, that activation of the nervous system. But that's not really the pathway you're working with bodybuilding, and it wasn't the one that felt right to me. I thought, yeah, CrossFit, it's funny. I felt it was more right for me to keep the tension on the muscle and to keep that groove, to stop the momentum with my muscles themselves, and then they come up rather than just drop the weight on there. So I don't really agree with doing super, 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 super heavy weights and crazy stuff, because that can create a little bit of a burden on the body too. But again, it's an individual choice, and it's based on your own individual situation, right? So yeah, I mean, if it works, it works. But I got traps and I got it back without having to do that, and I found that I keep the tension on the muscles and hit failure, and that seemed to work better. Brandon, best and healthiest foods to eat when trying to bulk. I don't know, man. I think I'm still learning in a way, because I really am looking at what I know to be true, and I'm always looking at it and say, is it still true for me? Like my brother and I talk, and I talk to Jamie, what's the latest research on this? What do you think, based on your own experience, how your body's responding, my body's responding to different foods? But mainly, I mean, the general thing is stable blood sugar foods like carbs with protein is one of the best things for feeding the muscle, and you just need enough fat in order to basically fuel the body. Now, you can do a high fat, high protein diet as well with low carb. So it just depends on your own body. So I don't really have a best, because I think for each person it's going to be a little bit different. But I found lots of rice, lots of brown rice anyway, and yams and potatoes and oatmeal, and having protein with each meal with lower fat was best for me. If I combined too much fat in there, then I'd be out of breath and I would not be able to train very hard. And I found that was worse for me. So a lot of the typical bulks, I'd end up with smaller muscles, but fatter tummies. I feel like this, I would try to bulk, and then, I'd be having lots of protein powder and eating everything inside, burgers and Whoppers and all this stuff. And then what would happen was I would be bigger when I'm in the gym, I feel spongier, but I'd always want to puke my guts out when I train high rep legs, right? So I couldn't manifest the same intensity. So I found bulking like that wasn't really a good idea. I found that was actually counterintuitive. So I found eating carbs and protein constantly was good. Now, of course, I've experimented with the fat and protein, and I also agree that that is also good. And I think it's good to go back and forth depending on how your body responds. Yeah, as per I could drink a liter or two of water for sure in a gym session. I think that's not a bad thing. Yeah. Okay, Cameron's asking. He knows that I don't perform the deadlift, but because of the risk in the lower back region. But it's not necessarily the risk, Cameron. It's not the risk as much. And I know that I'm just going to correct your terminology here, because you might misunderstand why I don't do it. It's just not right for my body, because it just puts so much stress on my lower back, which is not the good type of stress. It's kind of like saying, Jason, why don't you break your arm every time you train? Because that's just the right way to do it. It's because I have to bend over so much, and then my back rounds because of the way my hip bones are made and everything like that. Like the hip joint, it's just made a certain way that I cannot actually get in that position with the bent position and basically grab the bar. No matter how much flexibility I get, no matter how much stretching I do, no matter what, it just is not the right position for me. So there's a slight rounding in the back that causes the stress in the lower back to be dysfunctional. It's not good. It's not training. It's just abuse. You know what I'm saying? So different people with long orangutan arms or whatever, they're going to have a better time. But me, my shorter arms, shorter upper body with long femurs is just a horrible movement for me, right? So the trap bar would be a better solution if I wanted to do it. But the thing is that you don't have to do everything, right? I mean, I know I don't use SARMs, Brendan, just so you know. I don't use SARMs, so I don't really have any thoughts on them, so I don't really know too much about them. I've heard that they're supposed to be okay and there's no side effects, but that's all what I've heard. It doesn't mean it's true, so I have no idea. I don't know. But just so you know, guys, I mean, the trap bar deadlift is probably a great deadlift, but really it's not a deadlift in my opinion. It's really not a deadlift. What it is a it's really a squat with you holding onto the weights. That's what it is, because you don't have to bend over so much and pull this way. You're basically just having the bar at your side and going up and down. So it's really just like a squat. I call it more of a squat than a trap bar deadlift, although it's technically called a trap bar deadlift. So that's why it takes a lot of the stress off the lower back. It's more of a movement where you're basically keeping the stress, or more the stress, on the legs. Also, the center of gravity is much lower than a squat, because the weight is closer to your hips and everything. So it could be a lot easier on the lower back than a squat as well. So yeah, it's not like it's a bad movement, but it's something that I think that I just don't want to do it. I just like, I know what I like to do, and I'll stick with that, right? Yeah. Yeah. Nice, Daniel. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, the stretch and the pump technique works great. Okay, Gabriel Parker, which athlete are you talking about that needs to explode out of a lower position? Like what lower position? Like how low? Like what sport are we talking about here? Yeah, MMA Renegade. Yeah, thanks for that information. SARMs are illegal now. Good. Okay. Yeah, something about it sounds weird. I smell a rat. I don't know what it is, but it seems like it's a drug to me, but it's just something that hasn't been classified properly yet. It's like a deal with the devil, in my opinion. So anyway, that's why. There's somebody that was talking on a website too, where they're talking about that they have no problem with guys doing hormone replacement therapy and everything like that. Something about that speaks wrongly to me. You know, if you have to start to put stuff in your body, well, if you're sick or something, okay, whatever. Like if you're using a medicine, I understand that. But if you're doing something because you're like, oh, I don't have the same hormones as I did when I was 20, well, maybe look at your diet, maybe look at your water supply, look at whatever, like look at a lot of those factors. I think you're better off doing that and balancing out your life, making sure you have proper supplementation and stuff, but not going the drug route or the hormone route. I think that's I don't know. It seems like a deal with the devil to me. Yeah. Esperam SARMs, but he says it's still used for cancer patients. Yeah, a lot of drugs are used for cancer patients. That doesn't mean that they're healthy. It just means that it's a better alternative than what they're going through at the time. So, absolute drugs are also used for AIDS patients too. That doesn't mean that it's the healthiest option for a natural athlete or a person that is healthy, right? Yeah, the thing is, IB Fit, if you have to use that stuff, that means you haven't learned how to train. I'm sorry, but I just feel that you need to learn how to train and be in balance with your body rather than taking substances that are just like pharmaceutical. I mean, why would you? I just think you're better off being in harmony with natural natural stuff, like life. So yeah, I don't agree with any of that shit. I really don't. I mean, if you want to do it, go ahead, but I think it's a risk. MMA Renegade, what's my favorite type of pull-up? My favorite type of pull-up is medium, maybe a little bit wider than medium grip, and elbows in a bit, and I lean back. Yeah, that's my favorite position. Okay, Russ Cosmos, this is a good thing to talk about, okay? And I don't talk about this too much, but there is an astrological shift tonight with the new moon, and it's something to do with, what was it? Was it Uranus or something? There was like a Uranus sort of thing. Just anyway, there's some sort of energy coming in right now which may affect your body and cause some tight legs and stuff. My quads have been really tight lately too, and I know a lot of guys that have hurt their knees lately. I mean, some famous YouTubers as well, some guys I know at the gym. And tight quads can affect your knees, just so you know. It can do that, yeah. Yeah, Esperon, my brother's a naturopathic doctor, so, you know, I've talked at length about a lot of things, but like I said, If it's a drug, I don't want to use it. That's it, you know? Yeah, and Cameron D, your training is evolving. My training is always evolving too. So yeah, good for you for being open to that. Daniel Stanley, time under tension is important. It does make a difference. Yeah, it's a major component of my training that I found that I naturally fell into as I got more and more advanced in bodybuilding. That seemed to work better than like so many people that lift something and then the rest in the joint, lift something then rest in the joint, lift something then rest in the joint. They're just resting and they rest on the bottom and they rest. It's like the joints take more stress there because you're kind of relaxing and then tensing the muscles. That does not work as good to build muscles and physiques. And funny enough, the guys that are saying it doesn't work usually have no physique. And there's some pretty profound YouTubers out there that have really very little of a physique, but they're saying, oh, constant tension doesn't work. It's proven to be not, it doesn't work. Well, funny enough, you're saying that you know the secrets of training, but you don't have the physique to prove it or back it up. So that's what I don't understand sometimes. It's crazy, man. Yeah. Okay. Can lat pull down machines with constant tension be with heavier weights over time be as effective as a pull up and weighted pull ups? I think it could, as long as the lat pull down was good and the pulleys were smooth and all that kind of stuff. So that way you're not fighting the friction in the machine. So that way you get that eccentric sort of pull. I think it could be. Yeah, I think it could if you do it right. That's the problem. Most people don't do them right to access their lats. They're doing this and then they're rotating. They're doing a lot of rotator cuff type stuff. They're not sticking the chest out and keeping the elbows in and pulling. You know, I've seen lots of guys do lots of different. They're doing really wide grip like this, and they're trying to pull, and they're thinking that's going to hit their lats more. But sometimes it'll hit more the rotator cuff, and some of the teres, and sometimes the bicep and the rear delt, but they're not necessarily getting their lats. So it depends on your technique. Okay, narrow or wide grip to hit lats versus rear delt. I would say you can do wide as long as you focus on the elbows in and then come back and then you'll hit lat. But there will be a point of diminishing return where you go too wide and then you'll notice your biceps have to pull too much and then your delt has to pull or your shoulders are pop it up like this and then you're going to be hitting the rear delt, right? So it's not about position, it's more about the position of this. It's not always the position of the arm, you know what I'm saying? Okay, let's see here. Oh wow, Cameron D. Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that. So somebody, Lou Marco made a positive post on Instagram about natural bodybuilding today, and somebody commented that I was the best natural bodybuilder. Oh, that's so nice stuff. That's a nice thing. Imagine, I'm not used to getting positive stuff on the internet, so that's great. Do you feel like going to the sauna after working out helps with recovery? It might. I mean, there's some studies out there that say that, you know, the heat and stuff is supposed to help with growth hormone production, all this stuff. I've never done it myself, so I can't really speak from a position of expertise on it. I can't really tell you. All I can do is share what I did in order to get muscle mass gains, but I really have not messed around with saunas. It just was kind of uncomfortable to me. I kind of like it was just so hot and so uncomfortable. I was like, oh, screw this, I'm going home, right? Oh, Cameron D, they tagged me in it. Oh, I didn't even know. Yeah, no, I'll have to check my Instagram. I'll have to check and see. Like I said, I'm not used to getting any sort of positive stuff on the internet. I've got so much negativity, honestly. I've actually considered shutting down the channel several times because it felt like there's so many people that just weren't interested in hearing about what I learned to be true and what worked for me. Instead, people just wanted to argue so much and just wanted to you know, throw stuff out there. And there's some stuff that was said that I was just like, my God, I can't even believe like some of the stuff that people will make up just to get you because they hate you so much. It's because you're not good looking enough or you don't have the right physique that they think you should have or something like that. It's amazing to me what the internet has become. You know, there's so many positive aspects to it, but then there's so many other aspects that are very challenging. So yeah, my Instagram is called Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, the exact same as this. So yeah, pretty easy to find. And my website is naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, so check it out. I got all my music on there, my t-shirts, if you guys want a shirt. And I got the shirts on there. And Sam Weller, I'm really excited. If Sam Weller's watching this, I'm really excited. He's working on a new design for me as well. So I'm going to keep him pumping out the designs as long as he's willing to do them because he's such a talented artist. So shout out to you, Sam. You're so awesome. You're so good at what you do. Yeah. Yeah, Arrest Cosmos. If I was here in 2008, if I actually started my channel back then this channel would have blown up because at that point there was so much demand for videos and so much demand for the information, but there wasn't much supply. So yeah, it would have been a much better time. But hey, you know, everything's the way it's supposed to be. I still enjoy doing the videos. I really enjoy a lot of you guys because a lot of you guys are so positive and have been a great influence in my life as well. So I like to help people, and I actually let's just reword that. I don't actually like to help people. I like to help my friends. That's what I like to do. I'm not really much of a philanthropist, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I like to help people that are in pain. I don't like seeing people in pain that don't have to be. And if I can help them somehow, and we kind of can share a few laughs or whatever, I'm into that. So it's kind of a selfish endeavor because I enjoy the people that I can joke around with and stuff. And yeah, it seems like people have more of a capacity to laugh and have fun when they're not in as much pain. So if I can help with that, that's great, right? Daniel Stanley, do I still compete in physique competitions occasionally? No, I competed in natural bodybuilding, but I have not competed since 2002. Okay. So Brandon, any recommended supplements for gaining size and strength or for just general health benefits? I did a video on supplements that I take. I put it up several years ago. But one supplement that's good is glutamine for recovery, for sure. Another supplement's good. Whey protein, I mean, it's just something that you can get some quick protein in when you're in a rush, so that way you're not starving yourself to death. There's lots of times where I don't have time to make a meal or something like that, so the protein powder works well for that. But yeah, the good food is the best supplement, Cameron. You're totally right about that. You know, that you're better off eating good food. That's the most important thing. But I found creatine was pretty helpful. At some point in my life, I did find creatine really helpful when it came down to putting on some muscle. And I like branched chain amino acids as much as some research is saying they're all crap, they don't do anything. But I do find that I do get some energy from them regardless of that. So I've actually felt that. So I like them too. And of course, a good multivitamin. I'm taking some really good multivitamins right now. I might actually get an affiliate link at some point. So I'll show you, you know, what I'm taking and stuff. And I took them before as well years ago, but it is important not to be deficient in any vitamins. It's not like vitamins will make you put on muscle, but if you're deficient in something, that can be a hindrance. So that's another thing to consider. Favorite type of cardio? None. That's my favorite type of cardio. I don't do a lot of cardio, honestly, but I'll jump on the bike. I guess the bike is the type of cardio that I would choose if I was going to do cardio. Yeah, I've never heard that creatine causes hair loss, but yeah, I'm kind of doomed to probably look like my dad anyway. So what am I going to do about that, right? Hey, you know, we're all doomed to get older, and yeah, some of us will get hairier backs and whatever, and yeah, that's just part of life, you know. Thanks, David Atkins. Yeah, thanks for being so positive around here. Thanks for you saying I have the best YouTube channel. It's not true, but thanks for saying it anyway. Best or worst source of protein? I'd say a lot of vegetable proteins are probably the worst source of protein. Is creatine safe? I'd say creatine is safe. Yeah. Every discussion I have with my brother about it, he's more like you said. He's the doctor. It's his business to know. And yeah, I talked to him about it, and yeah, he's pretty convinced that creatine is safe based on everything he's seen. And I've taken creatine, and it was very safe. I never noticed any negative side effects. Right. So unless there's long-term stuff that I don't know about. But it seemed pretty safe. If anything, it's supposed to be healthy in a lot of ways. So anyway, yeah, you have to do some research on that. Daniel Zavala saying he has been dieting, trying to get ripped, but he can't get his abs to show. Someone told him that he has a fatty liver. Do I think that's true? Well, how long have you been dieting? I mean, just because you're on a diet doesn't mean it's the right diet. And just because you're training for a month or two doesn't mean you're supposed to have abs right away. Like I don't, you know, I don't really know exactly what the context here is of the question. You know what I'm saying? So there's too many factors involved. I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh yeah, I train hard," and then I see them train. They're not even training. I mean, they're just talking the whole time, or they're just doing a couple sets of dumbbells with 5-pound dumbbells. Look at me, I train. I don't know why I can't lose weight. You know, I'm not saying this is the case with you, but what I'm saying is that sometimes what people tell you or communicate to you is totally different. Like the picture in my mind is totally different than the picture in their mind of what's really happening. So it's hard to comment, right? Cameron D, creatine may work, but the percentage is so small. I don't know if you mean, but the percentage is actually pretty large. Creatine does, it is your primary fuel source, and it does increase muscular endurance 100%. Like for most people in the upper body, short term, they will gain a couple reps on the bench or something like that. It does work. It's extremely profound. Creatine is actually the entire reason why the supplement industry went through the roof in the 90s. I don't know if you realize this, but most of you guys are too young to realize it, but the fact is creatine was what drove the industry, because protein powders and everything else were around forever. They were around for like 20 years. And people realized, oh yeah, supplements, they work. Not really. You know, they work maybe a little bit, maybe some amino acids or something. But creatine was so profound in the results that people started buying it like crazy, and it drove the entire industry. Like EAS and everything were the front runners of this. They sold a supplement called phosphagen. And this was what caused the massive supplement craze. It became something that was a bit of a smaller industry to a multi-billion-dollar industry overnight because of the results that creatine was making. It wasn't a hype. It wasn't like some sort of magazine article. It was because people are actually getting results from it. So as much as I don't take creatine, I do know it works. That's it. Yeah. Russ Cosmos, is there a way to train CNS and bodybuilding at the same time? Yeah, you're automatically doing that when you do your heavyweight days. And like I said, how to train heavy. I did a video on how to train heavy. Just watch that video, and you'll see that I do multiple sets, and I just stop an extra rep. Like say I can do 295 for a set of 10 or whatever it is, then I'll stop a rep or two short, so that way I can get multiple reps of just working the nervous system and not pushing the muscles too much, but constantly accessing that CNS. So that is a way to do it. But yeah, bodybuilding and powerlifting kind of go together. It's just that when you're a specialist just mostly in CNS, then I would say you're starting to go into the powerlifting realm. But both sports combine both tendencies. Excuse me. Both sports combine both tendencies. Both sports have CNS as well as muscular endurance factors in them. It's just the percentage of what you're doing will change depending on which sport you're doing, right? My experience about alcohol held my health and physique back considerably. Yeah, Esperum, alcohol destroys physiques. I don't drink at all. I don't touch alcohol. Yeah. Blair Cody, am I a fan of Steve Reeves' physique? Was he ever an influence? No, I remember seeing Steve Reeves when I was like 5 or 6 in a show. So piss off Anthony here, but Steve Reeves was never, he wasn't big enough for me to really be excited about his physique. Although he looked great. I mean, now, looking at him now, the way I know him, he looks great. Sorry, the light just went on there. He looks great. He had a really nice physique, and he was in shape. I'm sure seeing him in person would have been different than even seeing him in a picture, right? So that would have been an interesting experience. But he wasn't really the influence. Like I grew up with all the 80s bodybuilders and stuff before I knew, of course, what they were doing to look like they did. But yeah, I was influenced more by the Sean Rays and the Rich Gasparis and the Leo Labradas and the Lou Ferrigno's and the Arnold Schwarzeneggers. That's really what influenced me as far as physiques. What I want to look like. I mean, I remember you guys probably all did this. Like when I was 10 years old, having discussions with my friends about who would beat up who, Rambo or Arnold, that kind of stuff, or Jean-Claude Van Damme, this kind of thing. But yeah, Steve Reeves didn't really influence me too much. I like Lee Haney's physique too. Lee Haney had a really beautiful physique. RXL's PlayStation domination. Bodybuilding, is it better to completely annihilate your muscles or just a couple sets to stimulate growth? I like to feel a lot of soreness. I think both. I think each technique will cause a different response in the body, but sometimes you burn out. Sometimes you actually burn out. You do an absolute annihilation of a muscle, and then you notice that you're dead. Like it's almost like your immune system gets overrun. You can do it for a period of time, just run, just push yourself, and then one day your body's like saying, I just got nothing to give. No matter what you do, there's no pump or anything. So I think you can burn out. And so that's why it's good to kind of go back and forth, from the annihilation point of view to more of just a mild stimulation point of view. And I think doing both techniques is good. So I went back and forth lots of times in my training. And so it's very hard for me to say just one way is the only way, because if I went with just to annihilate no matter what, I probably would have wrecked myself more often than not, because sometimes your body's telling you something. So my first priority is to listen to the body, listen to what's actually happening with the body, and then from there you make your decisions. Okay, as per big funky question, people say protein synthesis returns to a baseline 48 hours post-workout, but we can see growth up to 4 days. This will depend. This will depend on your genetics. It'll depend on your fast twitch fiber content, because fast twitch fibers, they recover slower than slow twitch, right? It will also depend on your constitution, right? And also the size of the workout you're doing, the type of workout, and so forth. So another factor that also will come into play, just thinking about it right now, is about how advanced you are. Because some people, as they get more advanced, they don't need as much work in order to stimulate, because now they're lifting way more weight and it's harder on the overall nervous system and the burden on the immune system, all that kind of stuff. So, see, the reason why I answer these questions so ambiguously is because what I've noticed in myself is going to be probably different than what you're going to notice in yourself. And that's why I answer the questions like this. But I find that for myself, I found that doing more frequent workouts more often with less sets and less intensity was better off than just kicking the crap out of my muscle and then not touching it for 5 days. I found by the time I came back to my muscle, I'd already shrunk up, I already got out of shape, and I already found that I was less able to find a groove as well when I was training. So, but that's just me. But I am totally open to the fact that other people might respond differently, and a lot of times I've wished I was more in the place where a bro split would work really well for me. Like for years I did the 3-day split, and it was good. It was good for me to a point, but I found that once I started going into the higher frequency type training, when I tried to return to the bro split, it just didn't seem to, my body didn't respond as well. So it just didn't work as well.
Looks like I need to close the garage door.
Okay. Yeah, B gang, watch my video on how many reach your genetic potential in 2 years. Watch that video. Please do that as a favor to me. I did a video, reach your genetic potential within 2 years, right? That's not true, but it was a clickbait type title because that's what somebody said, that you should be able to meet your genetic potential within 2 years, which was absolute bullshit. But it took me, I'd say, around 6 to 8 years in that area to get about 80% of my potential. Yeah. RS Cosmos, I think it's okay for a noob to start with a high frequency split as long as the volume is not too high, for sure. Yeah, as long as their volume is low and they're not going too heavy and stuff, I think it would be fine. But if they start to get extremely sore, it feels like they're just tearing in half when you go address that muscle again, that means either you need to change the frequency, like as far as take an extra rest day or something, or lower the volume or lower the intensity, something like that. You have to adjust the parameters accordingly, right? Daniel Stanley, will a natural ever be able to win in an Olympia against all drug users? I'd say, well, no, never. It's never going to happen. The reason why is because you're looking at a guy that started training when he was a toddler. The first time I lifted a weight was when I was 5. And I lifted weights when I was 9 and 10 and stuff like that. But the fact is, when I'm stepping on stage at 190 pounds at 5'8", the same guys, in that division in the Olympia stage would be stepping on stage at 220. And, a percent or 2 even leaner, or 3% leaner, you know what I'm saying, in body fat. So the fact is that it's just impossible, right? When you deal with these pharmaceutical type guys, that they have so many advantages when it comes down to bodybuilding, so many disadvantages when it comes down to health. I mean, half the time they can barely breathe, right? But yeah, anyway, the fact is, yeah, natural will never win the Olympia. I mean, at least not in my life. Okay, RS Cosmos, is there such thing as using new gains to quickly or making it last? I don't understand what that meant. I don't understand what your question was, RS. Yeah. What was my favorite exercise of all time? I always liked bench press. I always liked bench press. Bench press was my favorite movement. Cameron Shaw. Hey Jason, I've worn a sweatshirt every day for about the past 2.5 years. I don't know why, but I feel so negative about myself, and I was wondering if you had any advice about overcoming that negativity. Cameron, check out my other channel. Check out the Jason J. Gallant YouTube channel. That's more on meditation and enlightenment and about self-help. But there's a video on there that says, do you hate how you look? Watch that video. That video will really help you out because, here's the thing, right? I mean, I'm lifting weights and stuff like that, but I have days where I look more like shit than others, but I on purpose don't care. I just jump on the YouTube channel and hey, look, I got a crease side of head, or I'm not worried about whether the lighting's right, so that way my teeth and my fucking hair looks all right. You know what I mean? You gotta let go of this shit, because the thing is, there's certain things you just can't change in life. But the things you can control are how your point of view is. You can actually control that. And I find you're better off just letting go of any sort of point of view that reinforces negativity in you. There's enough negativity in the world. That's the last thing we need. And I'm sure you're getting barraged by negativity all over the place. Everybody gets that, right? But can you clean up your own contribution to that negativity? That's the most important thing. Like, I know I'm going to get older one day. I'm going to be 80 or 90. Like, do you think I'm still going to be squatting 4 plates or something? Like, that's not going to happen. So what am I going to do? Just like beat myself up until I go to the grave? Like, it's just so stupid, right? So you have to understand that your value is not wrapped up in how you look. Your value is not wrapped up in how much you have for muscles or anything. It's just a game that you can play with friends. Kind of like when you were a kid, maybe you played tag with kids, or maybe you played video games with somebody that was your friend. But it's just a game. But it doesn't mean that you're great because you were so awesome at playing tag. You know what I'm saying? It's just a game. So as humans, you know, as men, women, whatever, as humans, we have to really let go of certain places in our lives where we were really good at something, or certain things that we were never really good at and never will be. And it's your job to look at what you are good at. It's your job to look at where is the jewel inside you and celebrate that, instead of constantly look at what you're not. I mean, if you're always looking up in the sky at the birds and saying, I'm not a bird, oh fuck, you know, every day of your life you're doing that, you're going to be a very miserable person, you know. And it's sad, because the thing is, it causes you to not look at what's here. There's such a treasure that's here. There's something inside you that's here. There's your own laughter, your own soul, your own heart, whatever you want to call it, you know. And if you can really celebrate that, or find out what it is that you want to share, and continue to love yourself first. I know it sounds hokey and everything, but look at what you like about yourself instead of what you hate. Start turning your focus more towards that. And then from there, you'll start to take baby steps in a different position in your life, rather than constantly looking at, you know, how you're not something. And this is why I use training this way, and this is why I talk about this, because there are times your body goes through shifts. Like, my legs have been tight lately and stuff like that, and I told you guys I'm lowering the intensity of my training just for this last few weeks, because it feels like my body's going through a shift. I'm just going with it. But if I was like obsessing about, oh, my arms aren't pumped right now, or oh, my back is not as pumped, or my legs, like, it just causes just torture. But sometimes I look at it as an opportunity to do different things. Say, okay, I'm just going to work on doing some more music. I'm going to work on doing more video footage. I'm going to work on doing this live chat with you guys. There's a tremendous opportunity to still enjoy your life. Even if some things aren't working out so well, sometimes it's an opportunity for other things to work out twice as well. And that's what I think people lose it. They basically have the horse blinders on, but like, life is only this, it's only this. But sometimes this is not going so well, so that way you can expand your vision and see that there's other things that you could start to enjoy as well. So don't forget that. But make sure you check out that video. I think it'll help you out a lot. Daniel Zavala, I have 2-day split programs on my website, naturalgallantbodybuilding.com. You can see how I do the splits on there, Daniel. And I have program A, B, C, and D. I highly recommend you try them out. It helps support this channel, so you're helping support me and help me answer these questions for you. But at the same time, yeah, you could do upper body one day and lower body the next. You might find that doing lower body the next day, you might want to put a body part or two in there, because doing all your upper body in one day might be a little bit too much. It just depends. There's no wrong way though, honestly. I really feel this. There's really no wrong way. There's just a way that gives you results, so try it out. Try whatever way you want. Just try it out and see what happens. Samuel, I feel about 1 gram per pound of body weight is about right. I sometimes don't hit it, but that's ideal, I think. MMA Renegade. I used to be able to jump high. Now I don't jump because I don't want to pop my shoulder up when I do this. But I used to be able to grab a basketball rim. Yeah, I couldn't slam dunk or anything, but I thoughts on jump rope. Jump rope is good. It'll be great for calf development, that's for sure. But it's an intense cardio. It's intense cardio. So, but yeah, I think it can be a good cardio if you want to enter cardio into your diet, or not your diet, your training program. If you want to do riding the bike or jumping the rope and stuff, I think it could be good, for sure, yeah. It might be too intense for some people though. And if you're super heavy, it might be too intense on your Achilles tendon and stuff, so you also have to factor that in. Arrest Cosmos, I heard if you train too efficiently and make good gains, you will plateau forever afterwards, versus if you slowly make gains, it will go consistently. Arrest Cosmos, honestly, I know you've probably heard that, but it's amazing the type of bullshit that people make up. It's like, this is the one thing I can't stand about YouTube, is that people make up a lot of shit, and then they just basically perpetuate it because it's some sort of new way of seeing something, but it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like kids trying to understand the nature of the stars. They're like, oh, there's bright flashlights in the sky, and I wonder if they have batteries or something. I don't know, it's just weird shit. I don't know, man. I think that Rajiv's Sadhya, or BCA is important. I don't think they're absolutely important. I did my entire bodybuilding career without BCAs.